introduce you to Dr. Joe Griffin, a speaker, consultant, and author's intention is teaching that talk is to broaden their vision. The things they weren't taught when they brought up as children. Reach for the top, regardless of situations, predicaments, or your conditions. He's making history, all of the districts, increasing retention from teachers, 50 to 80%. That ain't all that you hear me. He is the mentor. He paved the way with his dip methodology. Really, dream, be persistent, face fears, seek change, go out and go get it. This what you learning with Dr. Joe Griffin. With Dr. Joe Griffin, yeah. He says recognize trauma, push past the pain. If you got a problem, go look at his frame. Work your perspective and look at it change. Find a goal, set it in critical thing. Manage time, self-awareness. These are the few of the things he's trying to get you to do every day. Do every day. Led 5 schools to increase test scores with his teacher principal collaboration. Things he gives to you will have you take you drive to the next level. But first, you need to get some fuel at gas station. Supporting education leaders, creating a culture for kids that'll last for ages. Lack of access to quality professional development, that's outrageous. Got his doctorate in education, leadership, research, make changes. Need to put the kids first and raise them. Need to teach them they worth, stop playing. Later on, they gon' run this nation. Dr. Joe with his dissertation taught to those who would fix, make changes. I introduce you to Dr. Joe Griffin, a speaker, consultant, and author's intentions. The teaching that talk is to broaden their vision. The things they weren't taught when they brought up as children. Reach for the top, regardless of situations, predicaments, or your conditions. He's making history, all of the districts, increasing retention from teachers, 50 to 80%. They ain't all that you hear me. He is the mentor. He paved the way with his dip methodology. Really, dream, be persistent, face fears, seek change, go out and go get it. This what you learning with Dr. Joe Griffin. With Dr. Joe Griffin.
Great day, leaders. Welcome to the Speaking Life in You Leadership live stream. It's week 29. I am your host, Dr. Joe Griffin, where we talk leadership dynamics, personal and professional growth, educational trends, and we provide solutions to help you with school improvement. Let's go! Indeed, it's a blessing. So excited, you all. Week 29. I can't explain how thrilling and exciting it is to be with you once again. Been on a journey this week in the Big Apple, New York City, presenting the DIP approach for school transformation, discipline culture plus instructional practices. You all hear a lot about it here on our live streams, but I was able to go and give it to some educators, and they were able to receive, and we connect, empower, and collaborate like we always talk about doing here on the Speaking Life in You Leadership live stream. First off, I definitely want to recognize you. If you're in, please chime in wherever you're zooming in from, wherever you're streaming from. Make sure you drop a hello. We've got a good one lined up for you today. Continued prayers for the victims in Los Angeles. As you know, I am rooted there now, even though currently I'm on the East Coast. I was amidst the wild, warm winds that came from the fire. So although I did not have any personal losses, I could smell it when I went outside. And again, that's a powerful feeling to know that within your vicinity, the 10, 15, 20 miles from you, people are losing everything. And we want to continue to pray for those families. Also, continue to pray for the victims of the plane crashes. That still is bewildering. As I prepare to hop on a plane tonight, I've got to stay humble and always think about those people, because again, we never know the time, the day, nor the hour that it could happen to us. So with that in mind, I do want to continue to recognize Black History Month. Also, I've got a great read that I actually have picked up. It's called The Untold History of Black Communities, and it's by Maya T. Adisa, 2025. It goes all the way up from the Mali Empire all the way up to present day. I'll be finished reading this book by this week, but The Untold History of Black Communities, you all. And I don't know this woman from anybody, but the power in this book, and it's an easy read. You know, I'm reading a book a month this year, so this is actually my second in February. So again, that's good for us. Now, before we get started today, before I bring out my guests, I want to talk quickly about remembering your why, but more so remembering your purpose. I'm gonna say that again for you. Remember your why, but more so, even more so, remember your purpose. Your why is very crucial, you are. And I've been accused of saying it a lot of times as well, because that's what tends to ground us. That's what we think about. Why are we doing what we do? Well, to take that a step further, and I always challenge you, each and every week, I want to challenge you to think deeper. What does that look like when we take it from looking at our why to looking at our purpose? Yeah, your why is your start, but your purpose is what keeps you going, what keeps you grounded, what keeps you in the present. See, we think about test scores all the time. We think about the end results all the time. But what's in that day-to-day action? What's in our manifestation of those goals? How are we going to reach them? That's the question that we got to ask. And your purpose tells you that. My why, it might be that I love students, but my purpose might be because I want to empower educators to drive students to next levels. You see, so remember your why, but always think about that purpose as well with that deeper meaning. It's not just about doing your best, it's about being your best. So as we think about those things, we want to always continue to think about your why, but also think about your purpose. And I don't have a long spiel today because we're going to get into it. As I told you, we got a lot going on. And the guest that I have today is such a tremendous leader and person. I want to go ahead and get into our talk. I'm going to bring out my guest today, you all. Then I'm going to read her biography, and she's going to drop nothing but knowledge and jewels for our listeners today, as she has done for many, many years. So, hello, Dr. Watts.
Hello.
Right. I'm gonna read your biography here, and then we'll get into it. Dr. Toy Watts made history when she was named superintendent of the Laurel School District in 2018. She's the first woman to serve as superintendent of education in the district's 133 years of educating the children of Laurel. Since serving as the superintendent, the district has seen digital upgrades in all areas of operation, increased recruitment leading to the employment of high caliber applicants in the areas of teaching and administration. The district's 6 schools saw gains on state test scores, with one school achieving the district's first A rating and maintaining that rating for 5 consecutive years, leading to being named a 2023 National Blue Ribbon School. On the high school level, college scholarship offers doubled, and the school achieved a 90% graduation rate, the highest since the data tracking began. Due to a renewed focus, the high school recently became a B-rated school. Additionally, the district underwent a complete restructuring, including moving campuses, created grade-level schools, and increased early education opportunities. Calm under pressure, Dr. Watts has faced the challenge of an EF3 tornado, a global pandemic, and 4 devastating fires during her tenure. Watts has served as a keynote speaker on the state level, guest panelist on the national level, and is a contributing author. Dr. Watts received a Bachelor of Arts in Elementary Education from Dillard University, a Master of Education in School Counseling, a Specialist in Education and Educational Administration, and a Doctor of Philosophy in Educational Administration from the University of Southern Mississippi, our alma mater. Dr. Watts is a seasoned leader with over 25 years of experience in education, having served as a teacher, counselor, coach, principal, assistant superintendent, and superintendent. Currently, Dr. Watts continues to support education of all children as the Mississippi Sales Director for the Bailey Education Group. When she isn't working, Dr. Watts enjoys her role as mommy to Josie and Tori and Joy. They are 14, 11, and 8. welcome to the stage, Dr. Watts. How are you tonight?
Thank you very much. Wonderful hearing that, Red, and I'm good. I'm real good. It's Mardi Gras season where we are, so it's beyond good. Like it's let the good times roll time where I am.
Okay, okay. King cake and all of that, I suppose, huh?
All that.
Okay, that sounds like a winner to me. It's pleasure having you, Doc. Thank you for joining the live stream. And I was reading your biography there and hit on that mommy piece. And we follow each other on social media, so I know that means a lot to you. And
It does.
with tonight's show, we highlighting women in education as well as looking at the teacher shortage and executive minority leadership. Can you kind of start off with a personal experience, maybe as a leader, balancing your career and your family?
Oh, yes, I have a. And look, if it's going too long, do the Sandman or something on me or whatever, because I can talk now. But I will say that starting in Laurel, we had a lot of issues that needed a lot of attention. And being the nurturing person that I am, I made myself overly available to everyone at all times, and all times of night, day, morning. And after a vacation with my children, something happened with my oldest child. She was then 9. She sat me down and I listened as she told me basically that I was a workaholic. And she said, Mama, you shushing us on the phone in the morning in the car. She said, you shushing us in the afternoon when you pick us up in the car. She said, you get home and you send us in the house, you stay in the car on the phone, and then you come inside, you're still on the phone. At night before you go to bed, you're still on the phone. And I realized that I was doing them a disservice, that I was letting my job just completely take over my whole life, and that I was neglecting my family. So I made changes immediately um, to how I was more intentional about spending time with my children and doing a better job of taking care of myself, my health being one of those things as well. Since I was in Laurel, since my highest weight in Laurel, I've lost 100 pounds. So just really kind of changing over how I was seeing the job, and all of that started, before I left. So that's definitely one of my examples of that work-life balance, and really I'm glad that my child had to sit down with me to, really, it took her to make me really think some things through.
Wow. That's crucial. That's powerful that you say that, because coaching can come from anywhere, can't it? Coaching can come from anywhere, because sometimes we just not self-aware of how what we're doing impacts others. So I definitely can understand your statement there, and I feel it. So what kind of advice would you give to women who would step into leadership roles with that thought in the front of that?
Not just to women that are stepping into those roles, but also people who are supervising women who are in those roles.
Okay.
I feel like I was really blessed, and it's kind of, somewhat of a ministry for me. And I feel like that the people God put in my path were not by accident. So I had several young women leaders who worked for me that had young children the same age as mine. So they had somebody who understood what it was like to be up with your baby all night and still be expected to be at work at 6 o'clock in the morning, 6:30 in the morning, because we're expected to do it just like the men do it, right? That's the expectation that people have. Well, the truth is we aren't. I wasn't a man. I'm not a man. I was a mommy when I got home, and those are some things that you have to really realize impacts how you lead. It doesn't make you less of a leader, but it impacts how you actually do the job. So some of the things that I would tell them is, if your baby has gymnastics on Thursday and you got to drive them and you want to take them to gymnastics, come to work early and let your assistant principal end the day. That's not the end of the world. As long as everybody's getting out okay, it's fine. But then that way your child doesn't feel neglected, because you're taking care of everybody else's babies. Because that's basically, that's what we're doing. We're taking care of everyone else's children, and ours sometimes get on the back burner. So any woman that's coming into a position that has children at home, or a husband, a spouse, whatever, whoever you have that you're taking care of at home, do not put them on the back burner. You have got to give them some time and carve it out for them. They will, making sure they understand that you are going to have to be committed and pulled away from them quite a bit, but that when it's important, you're going to be there for those times that really count.
Wow. Sounds like intentionality is important with that. And I can hear it in what you're saying with that as well. So what kind of systems or types of supports do you think would help women be able to thrive, or help leaders really be able to thrive? Because I feel like it's good information for everyone.
Yes, I had to get a village. So I went back to the old African proverb, it takes a village to raise a child. And I realized when I came to Laurel, I had no family there. I didn't even have friends there. I didn't know anybody in Laurel. So, and my youngest child at that time was 15 months old. So I had a 15-month-old, a 4-year-old, and a 7-year-old. When I moved to Laurel to become the superintendent of a district that needed a whole lot of attention. And I realized then that I could not do it alone. That not even having a spouse, I could not do it alone. That I needed a group of people to help me with my kids. And so I just started kind of, informally interviewing people and finding out people who kind of jive with me, my family, my kids, my ideals. And I had to trust those people to help me. And they did. And they still do to this day. Like, all I have to do is make a telephone call and say, hey, I need my kids to get on the bus, or can you bring them home for me? Can you take this one to basketball? Because I'm one person with 3 kids. And so I'm outnumbered, and I do everything I can to make sure that they get where they're going. But I realize that you've got to find people you trust, that you can depend on, to be a part of your support team.
Wow. Teamwork plays a part in everything.
Yes.
And that's one of the things we talk about pretty much every week. We kind of tie collaboration. That's one of my big things, but I know that we can't do anything without others. It takes others to make things go the right way, as well as on teams, with your family, whatever you're doing. It's hard to accomplish anything by yourself, and you accomplish more with others than you can alone. And with that, that's powerful information. I hope that the women are listening. I hope that the men are listening. I hope everyone is paying attention to the things that are being said today. Healthy leadership takes on a couple of different looks. Would you kind of define what that looks like from an educational perspective?
You said healthy leadership?
Yeah, healthy leadership.
I would say, for me, what works for me, healthy leadership wise, I believe in shared decision making. Until there are those things that you cannot share the decision. There are some things, and this was how I used to crack this joke with my principal all the time. I say, I understand that you all have desires about how you want certain things to go, but at the end of the day, I have veto power. And if I, as the leader, because everybody's going to be looking at me, they're not coming to you at the middle school to ask you about a district level decision. So if it's a decision that I can use your assistance with, I'm going to ask you for it. I want your input. I want everybody to give and help me look at every angle. I used to tell them, don't have me out here looking like the emperor with no clothes. I'm not going to be a dictator, and I'm going to welcome your input. But at the end of the day, the decision I have the final say on that decision, because it comes back to me. I can't pass that decision back to you when people come to question me. So I have to use my bit of wisdom with that. So I think it's a combination of empowering your people, welcoming other ideas, other comments, other helps or positions and things that you may be discussing. But it also takes a certain degree of self-awareness and strength to say, okay, in this particular situation, I realize if I have to go by myself. There are some things that I have to go by myself, and understanding which is which and when is it time to just draw that line and say, okay, this is what we're doing. This is the direction we're going. I heard everything you said, but based on everything that's going on and all the things that I'm equipped with, other information that you may not have, this is where we're going. So I think that's healthy leadership. Is just including when you can, but when you have to lead, you lead.
That's a good perspective. And that broadens my viewpoint right there. When you say that, what do you think like some of the biggest challenges are in preparing them? Even though you may have to veto something, you may have to find give them an alternative to do one of the things that that they're trying to initiate or what have you. But what are some of the challenges in preparing them to understand that, but also to make those great decisions further along the road also?
So one is, and you're talking about principals, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So principals, or I guess even directors of a department or whatever within your district, it's your baby. So I feel like
it can bump down to teachers also.
Yeah. Or even teachers in your classroom, same thing. It's your baby. So the thing is that whatever thing you're over, then I'm holding you accountable for being over that thing. Does that mean I'm not going to help you? Absolutely not. It means I'm going to help you, but there are going to be sometimes I'm going to let you do productive struggle, because the more you experience that productive struggle, you will understand the weight of the things that I'm doing, because it's over a much bigger territory than where you are. Not to minimize your struggle or to say that what you're doing isn't difficult, but you'll have a better understanding when you are definitely taking ownership over whatever department or classroom or school that you are over.
Okay.
And I don't believe in micromanaging. The other joke that we always had when we joked a lot, we talked a lot, we laughed. I believe in using humor and really showing my personality when I'm with my team. And then when we leave, we're a united front. But I would say, if I have to think for you, if I have to come in and I have to give you a checklist of everything that you're supposed to do as the leader of that classroom or the leader of that building, then really I don't need you. I'm doing the job for you. If I have to give you all that, I want you to bring your ideas and what you know and your know-how to leadership to run that particular situation. And I'm here to help you and support you to get to your next position.
I love it, Doc. You kind of touched on one of our key pillars here, Griffin Global. We talk about commitment and accountability. The only way that I can hold you accountable is that there's a commitment, and the only way that the commitment is able to be upheld is that we have accountability measures in place. And with that balanced relationship that you're speaking about, sounds like that helps you to be able to balance it out and then prepare the leaders, as we were talking about. So let's take it a step further with executive leadership. So how can that type of leadership development bump up and prepare leaders for executive leadership?
Well, the ownership and the accountability and the realization that the buck stops with you. I think that is probably the biggest lesson I learned in executive leadership. The person that I worked for when I was assistant superintendent, I actually called back 2 weeks into the job and I said, girl, I get it now. I said, you couldn't have told me I wasn't down for you like 4 flat tires. You could not have told me that I was not feeling what you were feeling during that. But there is a weight that comes with that seat that you only get when you sit in the seat. And I think that happens at every stage of leadership. A teacher doesn't understand until they become an assistant principal. And the assistant principal doesn't understand the principal's role until they become the principal, and so on and so forth. It's like, every time you change seats, the weight of that seat changes, the weight of that position changes. And so I think in preparing for executive leadership is really just learning everything you can along the way, being aware and not being so know-it-all. I was trying to think of a good word that I want to use. Sometimes I forget.
Coachable.
But yeah, you got to, coachable. Be coachable. Keep your ears open. You probably need to keep your ears open a lot more than your mouth in the beginning of executive leadership, because there's going to be a lot of pitfalls that nobody's going to be able to tell you about in the first day on the job. They're not going to be able to give you a manual to tell you, okay, don't walk here, don't go here. This is a sand pit. This right here is going to take you down. They're not going to tell you all that. Some of them don't want to tell you that because they want to see if you're going to maneuver it correctly on your own. They want to see if you're going to be successful. So keeping your ears open, wisdom, trust your gut. I don't even know how to say that one enough. I believe that people bring energy with them. And so I'm really big on, and I know that with technology, we do a lot of things remotely, but when it comes to hiring people, that was always very difficult for me to hire a person remotely because I wanted to feel their presence in the room. There's a certain presence that comes with people, especially when they're in a leadership position. If they don't have a presence, that's going to concern me. you know, because you should know them when they walk into the room. It should not be a question that that person has the capability of leading whatever thing that you've just put them over. So I think when you're looking into executive leadership, you have to have that. I mean, you just got to bring that energy with you. You got to trust your gut and just keep your ears open and be willing to listen.
This next question, I kind of have a thought about it as well, but I definitely want to hear your thought about it. Also, one of the reasons I scheduled you months ago for this month is because you are Black History, and of course, this is Black History Month, so I wanted to highlight that with you. But why would you say that it's important, or why is there a need for minorities, especially during our times in executive leadership?
Representation matters. Representation matters, and you're not just representing just purely in color, or gender, or whatever. You're also representing experiences that everybody doesn't have. That book by Ruby Payne was so mind-blowing to me about the framework for understanding poverty. And when I read it, I was like, that's why we do that. Okay. This is why we use a butter knife to open up everything in my house. We don't even own a screwdriver.
Yeah.
Not that you can't go buy a $3 screwdriver. It's just like, why? When you got a butter knife.
Improvise.
But right. But those kinds of experiences, we want our kids to walk into schools where they feel comfortable, where they feel empowered. And sometimes they just need to see that someone like them is in that position. I went through I hope I have time for this little tidbit. I went through this little thing when I first went to Laurel. I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna have to start wearing suits, and I was like, oh, I don't want to wear suits, but I feel like I gotta wear suits because I'm going to this position, and this is an expectation. And there I was when I interviewed for my job in my gray suit. My very first picture in the boardroom is of me in my gray suit, my afro puff, and just looking very stern. And I was getting my rear handed to me because I was a woman. It was constantly always an issue because I was a woman. So finally, around 2020, COVID changed everything, made you open your eyes to a whole lot of stuff.
Yeah.
I decided that I was no longer going to keep that picture in the boardroom. That I wanted young girls that when they came in that boardroom to realize that I was not a person trying to fit into the roles of the men before me. That I was a woman and I was leading this district as a woman, as a lady, as a feminine energy, whatever. And so I went and had a picture taken in the complete opposite. I was actually wearing a white dress and I had my hair in these little curls. And I was like, I want when little girls come in here and or women or whomever to come in and see that you don't have to fit the mold that was there before you to be successful at all. Like you really create your own path. And so to me, that representation in executive level leaderships, classroom teachers, principals. When I was a principal in a district where I want to say roughly 35% of my kids were African American, and the only 2 certified people in the building were me and 1 teacher. And I don't think a lot of people really understood what that meant for those children that would come to school, and they just didn't see themselves in their teachers. They didn't. And it's not to say that someone from another race or gender or whatever doesn't love you or can't love you or can't care for you. It's just that there are certain things where you want to have that conversation where you understand, like, oh, you get me. That's very different. You get me. And I think sometimes when you have that representation, that people say, oh, she gets me. I get it. Yeah.
That's powerful. That's powerful. Yeah, representation matters. I couldn't agree with you more. And I look at it even from a male point of view, also with males, black males especially, only being now 1.5% 2% of the educational field. So like when I'm at these conferences, when I'm in these schools and things like that, I make sure to highlight, at least meet them, because I know that we are few. So what kind of barriers can minorities expect? And how can they be overcome? How can you turn around and maybe even put it in your favor versus it being a negative? I like to twist things up, because I believe all things are for our good.
So are you saying, let me make sure I'm understanding, you're saying how do we use being a minority for a positive? Is that what I heard the question?
Well, yeah, but how do the barriers that you face being a minority in executive leadership, how do you get past those barriers? What are some of the tips that
okay,
can help
all right,
leaders
I
get
got
past
it. It's not personal.
Mm-hmm.
Can't take it personal. You have to keep your eyes on the prize, always keep focused on the goal. I think you and I were engaged in a conversation earlier. Being a Black woman in leadership, there's always the expectation that you're going to be the angry Black woman in leadership, or what other words we use to describe women in leadership often.
Right.
And so one of the things that I would always tell my principals is don't muddy the water. Don't give anybody an opportunity. Don't give them that out. So restraint for me was a biggie, as far as being able to really take time to process certain attacks or things that were against my leadership. But also taking a pause. That's another thing, is don't be so quick to answer. Sometimes if you get that email or somebody says something, I used to hate when you walk away, I should have said da 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 da, because of course you want to leave them with something really heavy to think about. But what I've learned over the years is that it's better. Sometimes silence is way more powerful. Silence is actually sometimes very loud because when you're not talking, people are wondering what you're thinking. So I have seen that as a kind of a strategy, that when those barriers come, is to just be quiet sometimes and listen and process and think. The other thing that a strategy that I had, I know we had an issue where we were losing support and from certain companies or businesses or whatever. And I'm sure there were various reasons. But what I did say to myself was, if the reason happens to be because they no longer want to support a district that is primarily minority, is that we have to do well even without that support. Work with what you have to do well without, you have to make $1 out of 15 cents in some cases. You can't sit around and say, woe is me. If I only had X. There was a statement I used to hate. They would say, I'm just not being set up for success. And I would say, well, if you were being set up for success, I don't need you. I need you to lead. I need you to create success where you are. So just even that mindset is a big part of how you're going to overcome some of those barriers, for sure.
I love it. You cooking right now, Doc. You're cooking. We talk about, I'm Joe, but often I talk from the perspective of Jim. And Jim, that's when I talk about the journey, being in the present and enjoying the moment and make sure that you're doing those things that you're supposed to be doing. And then I go to the I, which is the intentionality piece, because you got to be purposeful in everything that you do. And then the M, that's the mindset that you're talking about. Your journey and intentionality, they reflect and impress upon your mindset. So it's crucial that we always aware of those things. And I also kind of heard you touch on really, and what I took from it was being courageous, being courageous enough to not allow fear to stop you from doing what you're supposed to do. And as a minority in executive leadership, and I contemplated executive leadership as well, what would be some ways that minorities in executive leadership could or should retain diverse leaders?
Okay. Support. And I take that's not just the diverse leaders, but that would be anybody on your team.
Yes.
Good teachers work for good leaders, and so it's my job to make sure that they have good leaders in front of them. Leaders from different backgrounds, diverse leaders that can meet the needs of whatever my students need, period. Like, just every school has a personality, every district has a personality, community has a personality. So you hire people that are going to be a good fit for that. And I think that sometimes retention or the lack of retention is because we just have people in the wrong positions. They're in the wrong seat on the bus, or they don't belong in the bus at all. So just making sure we have those right folks in the right places is, I think, the biggest part of retention. Is that's how we keep teachers, is by having the right people in front of them. And I hear all the time when you tell people you're an educator, they go, "Oh, I would never be an educator. Like these kids." And I always say to myself, it ain't the kids, it's the grown people. And if you have the right grown people, then your kids are not going to be as big of an issue. Kids are going to be kids no matter what district you're in, period.
Yes.
So that's they're just being kids. But if you have the right adults in front of those students who don't resort to being kids with them, who take leadership very seriously, who really they come to work ready to change the world, because in what we do, we have that power. And you will have that power on the most unbelievable, uncanny kind of day there is. You never know when you said something that impacted someone. I had a young lady that I taught in middle school who now lives in Paris, who found me on LinkedIn to tell me about something I said to her when she was an 8th grader that helped her with her self-esteem, that helped her feel really good about herself. And she said she has absolutely never forgotten that comment. I am now 50, so I probably was about 25 when I made that comment, and she still remembers it. So I mean, yeah, the impact, we got to realize that impact is valuable. I mean, it's huge. And I mean, you don't even have to be in a specific position to make that impact. You could be the cafeteria lady and make that impact, as long as you're intentional and you care about the students you're serving.
I love it. You never know the impact you can make. That's all right. So that kind of leads into your other area of passion, which was the teacher shortage. How do you feel? What do you feel like the root cause of the teacher shortage is, and what do you feel like the root cause of the teacher shortage is first?
I don't know if there's one root cause. I think we have it's a lot of things that are playing against the profession, but I will tell you my pet peeve, or I feel like where the biggest disservice has come, is that we as educators have talked bad about our jobs.
Yeah.
We don't talk well about our positions, yet we want other people to respect the profession. I can remember being a bright student in school and my teacher saying, "Do not go to school to be a teacher." I have talked to other educators, other leaders in the position, who tell me they tell their children, absolutely do not go into education. And there are a lot of benefits, a lot of really great things that go with education, and not to mention the impact that you have that goes way, it's like a huge ripple effect that we totally negate or ignore when we're talking about people having fulfilling professions. Like, yeah, you can go and make more money, but will you be happy? Is it really touching? Is it really fulfilling your needs? And then there's so many other things. So I think for me, one for sure is that we don't speak well of our own profession, and we've got to do a better job of doing that. That every one of us has or should be charged with recruiting other people. Sheep beget sheep. Teachers should be getting more of their friends to join them. Look, this is a great profession. These are some things we're doing. But those of us in leadership have also got to do the same thing. Like, we have got to speak positively about the job we have or what we get a chance to do. I think that's one of them. I am also very concerned that it seems like teaching seems to be the go-to place the government wants to cut to save money. And when I'm looking at how they're changing retirement plans and, all these little nuances that are really impacting people who do make a decision to make this their career, I think that is going to make some especially some younger people who are looking into getting a career think twice. Like, do I really want to get into this career that isn't going to have a really great retirement program for me? In Mississippi, ours was wonderful. I mean, it
Yeah.
was amazing, and I hate that right now it's under the it's under the microscope, because I feel like that was a great recruiting tool for young people that are coming into the profession. So that teacher shortage is a big one. Teachers, when we were doing our job fairs, pay was never the number one question. The number one question was, will I be supported? We cannot put our young teachers in classrooms and feed them to the wolves. We can't just say, you got your license, baby, you get in that room and you just do what you do, and just give me the results and that's it. Those teachers need support. They need somebody to hold their hand. They need somebody to tell them those little nuances and things that they are not going to know going into that classroom. We as executive leaders have to put the right principals in the building that support those teachers, but we have to support them in every way possible. We have to teach them how to manage their finances, and I even think at the college level, teaching them not to get student loans unless they absolutely have to, offering more scholarships where the money we make as educators or a brand new teacher, the money is not bad as long as you don't have a $600 student loan note.
Yeah.
But
That's right.
when you take all of this money out and you have this big student loan note, well, then it does make you a little bit bitter about your job. It is going to feel like you're not making any money, and you're like, I paid all of this money to have this degree, and now I got to pay all of this back. So I even think having financial structures in place where they can get out of school and not have that burden is also a really, I think, an innovative way that we can get some people in there. I don't think a lot of our legislators or some other people understand that to get a math teacher or a science teacher, you're talking these people can make quadruple what they make in the classroom
Yeah.
working for an engineering firm of some sort, or a
Amplify.
science company or whatever. But we want them to teach kids for X, like those are some of those financial things that we need to think about. So we need to make everything we have a lot more attractive, to kind of help that pipeline.
Yeah, that's powerful. That's powerful. I hadn't really thought about it to that extent. So that's good. You've given a whole lot of knowledge today, Dr. Watts. What are some of the solutions that you've seen in retaining teachers and leaders and recruiting them?
Support. So I was blessed during my time in Laurel, for sure. It was just a shining example, giving uh giving gifted, talented people an opportunity to shine. So when I first started hiring some new principals, I actually hired people who had never been principals before. So looking for someone who has experience is not necessarily always the biggest part of that formula. You're looking for people who have characteristics that you want. And one of them is ego. And I always say this. I tell people, I said, principal has to have a certain degree of ego, or people will have them going left, right. They'll never be able to lead the ship if they don't have some belief in themselves and their abilities. But I had some young, very young people who had never been principals that I hired and I put in principal positions, and they flourished. They
Yeah.
flourished because I supported them. Well, because I supported them and they flourished, other people saw that example and wanted to join our team. So we have had lots of people during my time in Laurel that came to Laurel from other places because they literally wanted support. They wanted to know that someone really cared about the trajectory of their career, and that someone was going to support them, hold their hand, give them guidance, allow them to take opportunities, so that to be trained to do things. There was one of those memes I saw that says, what if I train them and they leave? And then you say, well, what if I don't train them and they stay? So,
Yeah.
us taking that chance and believing and trusting in them and giving them that training. If they leave, well, then they leave. I don't ever want to hold anybody hostage in a position. Now you're not gonna leave me when I need teaching that now. Don't come in June and say you leave. You
That's that
leaving because then
gatekeeping.
you got to stay with me at least one more year. But after that, baby, you can go. But yeah, just making sure that they have those opportunities and that they feel just it's something as simple as sending them to a training they want to go to gives them a certain respect about you caring about seeding into them. So support hands down in every level, teaching, principal, executive leadership, support in all of those levels is how you maintain healthy relationships, how you sustain those people and don't have huge turnover. People just want to know, they don't want to be unsure about where they're working. They want to be sure and they want to know that you really care about them in their future.
Deep, very good information. Getting that pipeline for educators established, support. I heard all of those great tips. Making sure it's not personal, being able to take a pause when it's necessary to be able to think and allow yourself time to make those decisions. You've been a jewel and a gem to the people today, Dr. Watts.
Thank you.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you. Are there any what final advice would you give to any of our listeners as far as anything that you want to give them advice on?
Intentional. I like your choice of words on that. I think that you move with intention. If you want to be successful in this career, if you want longevity, if you want to do well, move with intention. I also want to say, never be afraid to tell somebody you need something, whether it's assistance. I need a minute. I need advice. I need to go do this training, or I don't really know about this particular thing, so I need some help. Just being able to speak up and advocate for yourself. Advocate for yourself, and always with the lens of respectfulness. You know, that old Southern saying, you can win more bees with honey or sugar or whatever than you can with vinegar. There's some truth to that. You know, how you show up to people makes a big difference, and that doesn't make you weak because you're being respectful or you're being kind or sweet in the way that you present yourself. But you got to advocate for yourself. You have to, and nobody's going to do it for you more than you will.
That's good stuff. I tell people all the time, people close to me that we're talking about this kind of information. If you're trying to get something done and you're angry about it, that's going to slow down the results. But if you go with the right tone of voice, the right mindset, you'll have a better opportunity of getting it accomplished. So that's just a fact of the matter. For people that would like to get your assistance or to communicate with you, perhaps they have questions, may want to get some of your services or what have you, how can people contact you?
Well, right now, toylwatts@yahoo.com would be the best way to reach me via email. I have a platform. I mean, I'm on LinkedIn. Sometimes some people reach me through LinkedIn. I'm on Facebook, but that's usually me talking about my children. So I don't know if that's where you want to reach me. But yeah, if anybody wanted to continue the conversation, those would be some places where you could reach.
Awesome. Again, I really appreciate you coming on, taking the time out of your busy schedule to come on with us here at the Speaking Life in You Leadership live stream week 29. These weeks have gone by so fast. I've been excited each week because I have some great guests, but you were phenomenal today. With that, I definitely want to also make sure that anyone that wants to reach out to me, here's my information again. If this is your first time catching the live, make sure to go backtrack. We got topics on just about every educational topic that you can expect, and we continue to build that catalog up because we always want to keep getting better. You can't never talk enough education if you're trying to be the best educator. With that being said, I definitely want to prepare to close out. I charge you with making the challenge to lead with love. Ask that we continue to seek wisdom for the job that we do. and we ask for courage to drive our fear so that we can be the best that we can be. Dr. Joe here signing off, always speaking and writing life into you. Have the best day. Hold on, Doc.